So it almost finishes. We're now into this fifth and final game in the competition held in Helsinki, the ADLG competition held in 2025. And you should be able to spot these guys. This is my opponent next time. It's the Teutons, the Teutonic army of the Black and White Knights from the Baltic, proper Northern Crusade army. Can't get much more typical than that. And hopefully a good test for my absorb a load of charging knights kind of theory. So this was Brian's list. He travelled up from Germany. So what you got here, starting, it's always difficult with the Teutons. Do you just go all mounted? But then the foot is so tempting and it leaves you with nothing to do with if any terrain comes out. So Brian's gone for a couple of crossbow, a couple of medium swordsmen, and a couple of light footbow. It's a sort of inconsequential rough terrain force. I guess the bowmen give it a bit of shooting distance. It can sit in rough terrain, but it's unlikely to dislodge anyone serious from it. And then here you go, you've got 4 Teutonic Knights, 4 Impetuous Knights in that one, 4 Impact Knights in that, so you're up to 12 Knights, and then a couple of Light Horse Javelin in each one. Not too huge on the command and control. It's going to stop them dancing around, particularly those impetuous ones as well. But this is basically 12 knights and someone to sit in a bit of terrain that might be on the table. So let's have a look at what that table actually looked like. And here we go. So I think it looks like another one in which I've gone for trying to put down as many woods and forests as possible. I think I defended in the mountains in this one, and again, a bit like the previous game, not quite as bad as the previous game. Looks like there's a forest over there, a mountain and a forest here. Otherwise, it's fairly open on my side, but at least I've got somewhere, this place here in this forest, to hide the Baltic troops. And fortunately for me, Brian's decided he's got that one small command of medium foot. This is the only place on the table for them, so he's dropped them there to, I guess, to drive into here. And then the rest of these knights, some of them appear to have been forced almost to start in the rough terrain. It'll slow them down going a bit far forwards, but the whole line of knights extends pretty much out to this flank, whereas you can see my other 2 commands sort of kind of run out around about this flank. So there's a big potential threat here. These guys are going to be slow, but here I suspect my ambush is going to do a bit of mugging with a little bit of good fortune, and ta-da, that's it. The skirmishers move up, they trigger the ambush. The ambush is all there in the terrain. The bolts are ready to go out. Scares the bejesus out of these, and it may well actually even drag across a couple of the Teutonic Knights from the centre, take them away from their main task of trying to ride down my spearmen. So you can see again, the Knights have come out of the difficult terrain. They've struggled their way out. This lot on the wing have sort of wheeled in a bit faster. The light horse are trying to bully my light horse, and I've just about kind of started inching forward. Or this is probably actually an echelon deployment with these 2 sets of reserve knights who you know, I've got 4. They are elite, but there's a lot more in that Teuton army. There's 12 there. But this is going to be all about the Baltics doing stuff. They come rushing out, drive away these light foot. It's left a couple of light horse there as well, but I can hopefully pin those with the guy from terrain, and getting a little bit into the bog, which slows myself down. But they just want to get into the end of these guys, the crossbows and these, and stay away from these Teutonic Knights and just rush them. That's almost a perfect target for them to have a go at, really. So yep, the Teutons had echeloned over there. I pushed forward in the centre and echeloned round as well to, well, you know, corner sit, I guess, across most of the table. There's only about 4 base widths I'm not actually occupying, so not quite. Wheeling out those knights to extend my line. I don't really want to be doing a head-up fight against these knights with these guys, so they may as well extend the line, see if we can drive away these light horse and cause some trouble there whilst we get in some shots here. And these other ones are pretty clearly coming for this gap, so that I've got a nice solid line of anti-knight troops there. And here's my Scandic kind of Viking-esque general, looking at all the guys. Obviously a couple of light horse short in terms of what was packed up there. I don't think the Teutons, much as they love black and white, would have particularly loved Numidian light horse in their army. Been a long way for the Numidians to travel, but lining up, ready to be charged potentially, and seeing how that works. And the bolts still charging as much as they can, drifting even further around, aiming to clatter into the end of this line and then roll it up. And it looks like those Teutons have scooted away and driven themselves forward. And in fact, there they are. Yeah, they're all coming up. They're all getting ready. I've got my kind of echelon thing here, that those knights in reserve have almost moved up. I've left a few behind and sort of drifted them behind to try and protect the crossbowmen, because I know in previous games the crossbowmen were very much a weak link. So having a shorter line, that's what I've chosen to do here. Hide the crossbowmen away, and it does look like there's just going to be some knight charging into spearmen, and let's see how that goes. And on the other side, I've just chucked the knights forward, got them into the end of the line. You know, really, I'm trying to avoid this big line of knights going in as a coherent block. So if I can make some of the combat happen here, particularly where my guys are elite and the elite Teutons are over there, I might even sort of force something on the edge. But even at worst, I'm stopping a couple of the knights from coming forward. Gives a much better chance for this line of sort of 6 or 7, or probably 6, I suspect, spears, huscarls and crossbowmen and bowmen to try and achieve something before they get in. And looking at what comes up next, yep, that line has started to charge in. So the Teutons have charged in there, more knights have charged in here, some more have charged into my reserve line, but at least they are all broken up. And I've got an overlap here, I've got an overlap, swapping an overlap there, I'm swapping an overlap here as well, but it's sort of starting to just break up this line rather than hitting in one big solid mass. And fortunately the huscarls over there, they're not fighting, they're the weak link against knights. So this is all going to be about how well the spearmen absorb these knightly charges. And the bolts have got in, they've charged in, they've hit the bowmen who were trying to swing round. They've just sort of taken them on, obviously not done well against them, and they've just gone into the swordsmen, the crusading or in fact possibly even other Baltic swordsmen in the Teutonic medium foot command. And this is all going to be about how quickly this resolves, even though it's not resolving brilliantly for me at the moment. Over on the other side, looks like there's 1, 2 hit markers there. Nothing here, but only one, I think, or which is probably 1 or 2 there. My spearmen have saved themselves, or they've stood firm against that first line. That's allowed the huscarls to push past, because there's just not enough support really in this force structure, or just even in the entire Teuton list really, to protect these flanks. So the huscarls are ready to try and chew these guys up while this lot absorb the charge. And again here, a big charge is sort of shaping up. It looks like there's a bit of a scrum going on there with my knights still fighting here, chasing off the light horse there. But again, it's still winnowing these down to make a much sort of narrower line. And possibly in the background, that might even be some effective shooting. That might be a yellow hit marker, possibly over there. So perhaps the shooting's actually worked. But what has worked is driving these guys forward. They've obviously got rid of the light horse here, scared them off. They punched away through there as well. So suddenly I've got crazy knights behind the back of this line before it's actually even committed, and driven away a bit of a gap here. This isn't quite so good on the other side. These guys have now finally gone in, and this extra sort of spare guy who's been fighting away at my couple of knights, it looks like he's punched a hole and has gone into the flank. So my flank is going to get rolled up quite quickly here, but the knights are in combat, and it's not the biggest army that we're facing. Over here looks like all sorts of things really. Clearly that one where there was 2 overlaps, lots of knight pressure applied onto the end of my line. That guy's gone, the Teutons have come forward. But equally, some of my spearmen have blown somebody away here. The knight has impaled himself on the spear line. This one has taken a hit. My crossbowmen, no surprise, are taking hits, but dishing some out. And this guy's not doing too well either. But this guy's still sort of free and lurking around, and it's a bit nip and tuck really. It's all violence on both sides. But here the violence is pretty much one-sided. You can see these much better quality, the impetuous, some of them elite, one of them the general bolts. They've chewed up the 2 swordsmen in quite short order. They've chewed up one of the crossbowmen. One of the other crossbowmen is still fighting there, and they've kind of blown that away for fairly minimal losses so far. Just taken 2 units have taken hits there, but we've taken 3 out. So taking out 3 in this fairly small Teuton army is quite significant, and that really was the secret. It was just taking out that side of it really, really quickly, then absorbing the mounted charge. Not a subtle game. Run out of the wood at the people I can run over, stand firm, try and take it on the chin from the knights, and that worked out. And this is kind of where it all ended up, with me in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, ninth place out of the field here. Looks like the later Byzantines I lost to ended up there. Let me see who else was up there. Spotting some of the other guys that I played. The medieval German, that's one there that I played. Matty, he ended up there with the lighter Byzantines, and Brian was down here in the pool. And where did our Australian chap go? Daniel Smith, the new Australian player, ended up there as well. So all in all, a kind of cracking weekend and a cracking set of games. And there you go. It's all about how late you can stay up drinking and whether you can afford to do so, really, in Helsinki. And that's the textbook. Everybody must take it if you're in Helsinki in the summer, of the main railway station with a beautiful sky overhead at pretty much around midnight, and midnight being the time to end it. But do hang on, and hopefully you'll see some more pictures of my trip to see the Finnish Tank Museum the day after this competition ended. So hang on for that one.
This means war.